Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video, we're going to talk about makeup time. Now, when I'm talking about makeup time, I'm talking about in regards to your parenting time, your parenting schedule. I find this becomes a point of contention between a lot of parents when things need to be swapped around, and a lot of people struggle with this. If you like this content and find it helpful, please hit like on this video and also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. Makeup time is like one of those little garbage issues, as we like to call it, that the court does not like dealing with. This is like one of those little petty day-to-day things that usually one parent, I don't find it's usually both. It's usually one parent that kind of gets all twisted and wants to swap time or make up their time if they're going to miss it. Or the other parent always refuses to allow the other parent to make up any time. It's usually one extreme or the other where the parents are not agreeing. So I want to kind of talk about this from both perspectives, right? Because it's a little bit different. Now, the first thing I will tell you is that you really want to try to cooperate. The court really wants you to cooperate, particularly on parenting issues, on the custody part. They really want you to be able to work through your own details on a day-to-day basis, be reasonable, kind of rise above the conflict, and focus on what's best for your child. When one of you needs to trade for some reason, yes, do I think it's good for you to try to swap days or rearrange or whatever? Yes, it's good when you can do that. Thomas and I did that over the years with his ex-wife lots and lots of times. That's good. It's cooperative for the kids. If I'm trading so that the kids can go do something on her time, or she's trading so the kids can go do something on our time, that's good for the kids, right? They're getting the benefit of that trade and being able to participate in whatever's going on in the other parent's world. If you're coming at this just from, I've got to grab onto every bit of parenting time because I'm not willing to have 2 minutes less than the other parent, I think that's where it becomes problematic. People can get very legalistic about this. And they're like, well, you had an extra day 2 weeks ago, and so I missed that time, and I want makeup time so that I can get my day back that I missed. Courts don't really want you to come at it from that perspective. And I can understand that, maybe it's about having that time with your child and you just feel like you're missing out and the other parent is kind of taking advantage. I get that. But at the same time, if we're talking about, that parent had 16 days last month and you had 14 and you're supposed to have a 50-50 arrangement. Okay, that's the kind of thing that you want to let go. You don't want to be legalistic and you don't want to be, petty. I mean, I think that's really the word. The court's looking for you not to be petty. Within reason, do we want to try to have makeup time and rearrange the schedule and do all that? Yes, of course. Of course, that's good for the child. But you don't want to get so hung up on the time that you're just forcing that issue because of the time. Now, do I think that there is a limit to letting the other parent overstep the boundaries? Yes. And a lot of times when you're dealing with a high conflict person on the other side, this can kind of happen. And so they'll want cooperation and then you try to cooperate, but then you try to get your time back and they say no. I think sometimes we can go into fear mode because then we're like, oh, we're going to have less time. And, maybe that's going to impact support, all these different things. But where you have to put your head is, look, I'm not going to have conflict with this parent over 1 day of time. And I have all these notes back and forth between us and the parenting app. So I can show that I tried to cooperate, that I did want the makeup time, and I have proof that they absolutely refused and said, no, that's a good, situation. That's probably not going to work against you in any way. You've got all the documentation that you were trying to cooperate and that really the only reason that you didn't push the issue any further is because you were trying to avoid having conflict with the other parent. Now, the flip side of this is that I have seen situations where I have somebody who works a lot of hours, usually kind of the higher earner in the relationship, the one that has maybe a higher profile job or whatever, and they need some kind of coverage from the other parent or help because they get called into work or they have an extra day or whatever. And that other parent picks up the day, but then the other parent says, nope, you can't have any makeup time. The parent that had to ask for the help then wants a makeup day, and the parent that's helping out is saying, nope, not going to help you. Not going to give you a makeup day, not going to give you any time back. I don't think that reflects well on you if you're the person that's refusing to give that makeup time. I think there are extremes of this in both directions. And I can understand sometimes that if you're being asked to cover a lot, if it's a weekly thing, and then that parent says, oh, and I want makeup time, and you're having to rearrange the schedule every week, the entire thing because of this makeup time or whatever you're doing, then I can understand it. But if this is a situation where like one day out of every 3 months, or there's some one-off where that other parent needs some help and you're going, nope, no makeup time for you. I think that makes you look uncooperative. It makes you look like it's about you, like you're being selfish. It makes you look like you don't support the other person's parenting. And I will tell you that support of the other person's parenting is one of the biggest best interest of the child factors in almost every state. So when you're engaging around issues of makeup time and all that kind of stuff, those are the issues that can really bring to light whether one or both parents support the other person's parenting. And look, in a lot of the states, it says, the court has to consider who supports the other person's parenting when they're giving, when they're setting the parenting time. In other words, if you don't support the other person's parenting, the court could come back and give you less parenting time because you're not being supportive. So you have to be real careful because these can seem like small issues, but you have to ask yourself, am I being rigid about this? Because if you're being rigid about this in either direction, either one of those directions I talked about, then you're probably going to be seen as problematic. Court wants you to be flexible. They want you to be cooperative. They want you to say, sure, I can cover for you. Sure, you can have a makeup day, or whatever. And frankly, if you're the person that's covering for the other parent and then you won't give them the makeup day, guess what? Next time they need help, they're probably going to try to find somebody else to help them, not you, because you won't give them back their parenting time. So if you won't give me back my parenting time, I might as well just hire a babysitter. I mean, maybe I have a right of first refusal and I can only do that for so many hours. But if it was me, I'd be doing my best to try to figure it out in my own world and not even asking you for help anymore if you were being rigid like that. I see this come into play too when kids start getting older and they have activities. Maybe they want to do a sleepover or they have a birthday party or they have something happening in the other parent's world. Then the other parent doesn't want to give makeup time. They go, oh no, or they don't want to swap days. No, I'm not swapping. I'll take the kid, but I'm not going to swap with you. And again, I think if this becomes an every weekend thing where the other parent is asking this of you all the time, that is a different story. And I think we got to have boundaries around the limits and everything. But even when you're coming back on that kind of issue for that reason, you want to be careful how you're wording that, right? You don't want to just come back and go, no makeup time. Sorry, I'm not doing that. Or I see people slap best interest of the child on a lot of those responses. And they'll say, no, I'm not giving you makeup time. It's not in the child's best interest. What? It's not in the child's best interest to have their parenting time with the other parent? Like, you can't just slap that phrase on anything and make it true. But when you are talking about it, if you do feel like it's excessive or disruptive or whatever, that's what I would say. I would say, this is the third time you've asked me to swap in the last month. And I think the continued disruption to the child's schedule is not good for them. I almost don't want you to slap best interest of the child on a bunch of different reasoning, because then the court goes through that and they're like, oh, you're writing for the court, right? The judge can tell that's just being written for the court. because we don't normally, in normal language to each other as parents, use a term like best interest of the child, right? We say, it's probably not good. It's probably too disruptive. They'll be out too late and that might make them tired for school the next day. We talk in phrases like that. We don't talk about best interest. Okay. So again, I think this becomes like a lot of other things I've talked about lately. You have to find the balance. To find the balance and not be rigid in either direction, while also being able to kind of maintain a boundary, especially with a high conflict or narcissistic ex, if this is becoming excessive and going to the extreme. If the other parent is using you as their personal built-in babysitter, then maybe you have to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't take the child this week. I have an appointment that day. I know most of us just want to take our kid and have all the time that we can with them, but sometimes it's better to draw that boundary with the other parent and be able to eliminate some of that conflict and some of those issues. Sometimes that's better in the long run overall for your child than necessarily, constantly giving in to the other parent. So again, this is all about achieving balance in this. I know these things are difficult. They're kind of gray, right? These are the types of day-to-day decisions and communications that as we're moving through them, they're very nuanced. There's a lot of factors being taken into consideration. And honestly, when you come back and look at it, it's like, okay, well, what would a court think of what I'm deciding in this case? Would they want me to do this? Would they not like that I'm doing this? And I think this is a lot of the struggle that clients that I work with have, is just trying to wrap their brain around all these different decisions. And how do you know when to go with choice A and go with choice B? And that takes some education and learning and understanding of what the court wants from you. If you would like to learn more about my coaching services, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on that page where you can book a time to talk to one of my staff for free and learn how I might be able to support you on this journey and to learn more about my service. Okay? Talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.